like the street lights lit this town, like a fire in a blaze, gotta burn it down.
Alright, here we are, folks.
Can't be afraid to leave this out. We got this far, don't know how. I see danger in us. They know we'll burn down the night. Coming just like the sunrise. You know that we gonna let it end. Tonight, we gonna let it end. Tonight, we gonna let it end. Just like the sunrise, we gonna let it end.
Welcome back once again. This is Chris Report, and he assured me that since Simon's down in Boulders, folks, this is Chris Wyatt reporting from South Africa. Hello, folks. Welcome back once again to the program. There we go. Got to have the on-air sign. It is Monday, February 5th, 2024. This is Chris live in central Pennsylvania with today's daily dose, your daily jab, your daily injection of the news, analysis, and updates about what's happening around the world. Hope you're all doing well. Special broadcast time today. Have things to tend to today. That may be the case throughout the next week. Special broadcast times. We'll let you know. But that's the plan right now. Let's see. Tony Nage is in from Alberta. Paulie must be busy or must be taking a break after all those fires in the Western Cape. Dylan Combrick is here. Randy Font is here. And then we've got Sinette DeLong. Welcome back, Sinette. Sue Walsh, welcome. Crypto Noob. And who else we got there? Sinette. I said that already. Keith Alderson is in. All right. So I don't expect to have a large crowd at this hour. It is 3 p.m. in South Africa, 1 p.m. in the United Kingdom, and 8 a.m. here on the East Coast of the United States. John Hoochin out in Arizona is a couple hours behind me, so I don't know if we'll see John either. But welcome back to the program, folks. Plenty to talk about here, not the least of which is tied to elections coming up in South Africa and the United States. There's Kevin Nicklin. Hey, Kevin, how's it going? Yep. Okay, the whole family's there. Good to see that, Kevin. Appreciate them being there as well. Say hello to the folks. Well, let's get started. Like it or not, the African National Congress is back with a bang. So claims Cyril Ramaphosa, the man who's been more wrong than even Joe Biden. And I'll tell you, that's quite an accomplishment if you're incorrect more often than Joseph Robinette Biden. That takes a real effort to be wrong that frequently. But that is, of course, Cyril Ramaphosa. That's what he's good at, being incorrect about things. Let's hope that that's the case once again. He's upbeat about the election victory. Yeah, he's buoyed by overwhelming support for the ANC. I don't know where News 24 is finding overwhelming support. Where exactly is News 24 finding this overwhelming support? It's not showing up in rallies. It's not showing up in polls. It's not showing up anywhere except in News 24 making claims that they have overwhelming support. Really? We'll see. Ramaphosa declared that the party would surpass the 50% electoral support that it needs to stay in power. Really? On Sunday, he was in Tshwane to encourage prospective voters to register for the election. He took the opportunity to listen to concerns of residents who mostly had issues with water supply. As he traveled through the streets of Mamelodi, Ramaphosa said he was left with much confidence. The ANC is going to get more than 50%. This province is the home of the ANC. Gauteng. As I have been going around, people have been saying they belong to the ANC. We are confident. I can feel the pulse of the people. I can smell it. Whether people like it or not, the ANC is going to come back with a bang. I think I can smell something too, Cyril Ramaphosa. And it's not confidence. It's fear. I smell fear in the perspiration of African National Congress politicians who know that they're on the death's door, that their reign of kleptocracy is coming to an end. Yes. Well, back with a bang. Really? Back with a bang? These suckers who listen to you, 30 years of not delivering. You spread your racial hatred and claim that the reason why things are the way they are in South Africa is because of Jan van Riebeck, a man who lived 4 centuries ago, because of apartheid, a system that ended 40 years ago. That's right. It wasn't 94. It's almost 40 years. Ended in the 1980s. The late 80s, they dismantled it over 30 years ago. You blame these systems for your ineptitude, for your corruption, for your failure. Speaking of which, guess what? Digital Vibes is in the news today because somebody's being prosecuted for it. No, it's not Dr. Zweli Mkhize, the man responsible for the corrupt program stealing from the mouths of South African taxpayers to pad his family's homes. Yeah, no, it's not Zweli Mkhize. He still sits in Parliament sucking down a salary despite his clear evidence of guilt according to the Special Investigative Unit. Yeah, well, no good governance in Shwane. Cyril Ramaphosa has the audacity to attack the governance of the coalition running Shwane when the city is in the crap because of his corrupt, inept party, which has destroyed the once vibrant and beautiful capital of South Africa, Pretoria. Changing the name to a mythical, non-existent, so-called previous chief of the Tswana-speaking people does not change the future trajectory of what was once Pretoria and now is a destroyed, collapsing hulk of crap. Thank you, ANC. No good governance in Shwane. He slams the DA on water supply, transformer shortages, and filthy streets. Transformer shortages. Well, that would be electricity. That would be the responsibility of Eskom, not under the control of the DA. Filthy streets. That would be pigs leaving their trash on the street, intentionally undermining governance and blocking vehicles and burning vehicles that are trying to pick up trash. That's why there's trash on the streets, so oppose it, because your little army of malcontents went out and destroyed hundreds of municipal vehicles so that you could undermine the governance. Water supply. The water supply isn't delivered by the DA, moron. It's delivered by Rand Water. Wow, it is amazing how stupid people can be. Ramaphosa criticized the DA alliance with well-known slogan, where the DA governs, it governs well, highlighting its failure to deliver services to the people of Shwane. This is where the DA claims to govern well. However, I have not witnessed effective governance here. The residents of Shwane, especially in Mamelodi, are facing significant challenges. He attributed the challenges, particularly in Mamelodi, to the DA. The Shwane municipality, under administration by the DA, it's experienced a lack of stable governance for over a decade, with residents consistently pointing to its failure to provide essential services. Well, yeah, of course. It's an unstable government because you constantly undermine it instead of contributing to governance. That's the bottom line there. It's the second and last day of the second voter registration. It was the last voter registration weekend as they headed to the polls. Residents used the ANC's campaign trail to tell the president about their frustrations, dissatisfaction, disappointments of living in a metro that was not prioritizing their lives. Well, you know what? How about you stand up and start being lazy and do something for yourselves? People sit around expecting government to do things for them. It's unbelievable how lazy and slothful the world has become. No respect for any work whatsoever. Multiple Western Cape towns are now without power after thunderstorms ripped down power lines. High-tension lines ripped down across the Western Cape. The provincial government is marshalling relief for several Western Cape towns that have been affected by power outages following severe weather over the weekend. Eskom suffered multiple power line failures due to thunderstorms over the weekend, which resulted in 7 power line structures collapsing. Ground crews are currently assessing the damage. On Sunday, Eskom said it was experiencing a major network fault. Gale force winds and heavy rains damaged the Langsberg-Toos River 132 kilowatt power lines, affecting several Western Cape towns. This could lead to extended periods of power interruptions and delays in restoration efforts, said Eskom. Well, Eskom is on the job, so it probably will take a long time, folks. That's unfortunate news for people in the Western Cape. Once again, if this was a functioning power utility, a private corporation for profit, you can be assured that those lines would be up operational as quickly as possible. However, this is a parastatal full of patronage hires and incompetent boobs, and therefore there's no motivation to get the stuff back up, just doing what they're told to do. So this will take longer than it would under normal circumstances. So hang in there, folks. Hang in there. More than 1 million registrations over the final voter registration weekend. That's impressive. Yep. The second voter registration weekend saw more than 1 million people registering to vote. The general election is later this year. More than 500,000 voters registered on Saturday. By 1 p.m. on Sunday, a further 564,000 registrations have been recorded, with both online and at 23,303 voting stations. The bulk of the registrations were people aged 30 to 39, 122,000, followed by 20 to 29 and 40 to 49. There were 34,655 registrations of voters aged 18 and 19. Close to 100,000 people registered online. There you go. And you must be warned, folks, caution about voting in the election this year. The Commission reminds eligible voters of the general rule in elections That is, a person votes at a voting station where they're registered. The only exception to the rule is that the voter may vote outside the voting district of registration upon notification to the commission by a date to be regulated by the election timetable. Details of the modalities of notification will be outlined after the registration process is complete, according to the Independent Electoral Commission. So South Africans who register, why do you have to keep registering? I mean, we register and we go vote. We don't have to keep going back and wasting time and resources and money that could be spent elsewhere delivering services. I mean, I registered to vote in this state 4 years ago, and I haven't had to re-register and just go to the polls and vote. It's a pretty simple and straightforward process. I don't know why you have to keep registering. That just seems like a silly concept. Well, abalone, the precious and endangered mollusk, is at risk because of poachers. A suspect has been arrested after transporting 800,000 Rand worth of abalone in a Toyota Hilux. 8,000 abalone were recovered. Man is expected to appear in the Paarl Magistrates Court after he's found in possession of abalone worth 800,000 Rand. Police members attached to the Boland K9 unit were conducting patrols when they received information about a white Toyota Hilux transporting abalone from Coos River in Cape Town in the direction of Paarl on Saturday. The arrest of suspects in possession of abalone without a valid permit is high on the priority list for members of the SAPS. There you go. So, they recovered 7,760 units of abalone with an estimated street value of 800,000. Detained adult male on a charge of possession of abalone. The vehicle was handed in an exhibit. Wow. Oh, boy. Stuff all goes to China. The Chiacoms love that stuff, and they don't care what they do to the environment of South Africa. Its natural beauty. Well, the Democratic Alliance is taking action against a member of its party who presented bogus academic credentials. This is rife in the world. People lie on CVs, they lie on resumes, they lie to get jobs all the time. It's not a South African epidemic, it's a global epidemic. Fully over 2/3 of all resumes, apparently, here in the developed world are fraudulent. People embellish or put misstatements into what they're doing, which I take particular offense to. I have a 14-page long curriculum vitae, and there isn't one thing in there that's an embellishment or a factual error or misstatement. And if I take the time to do that, everyone should be able to do that. And that I find personally offensive when people do this sort of thing. The Democratic Alliance highest decision-making body has decided to proceed with disciplinary action against a Cape Town councillor who's embroiled in a qualification scandal. DA Proportional Ward Councillor Abdul Qadir Elias has a case to answer. It's alleged to have lied about having business and medical qualifications. He claimed on a LinkedIn profile that he was a student at the University of Cape Town in 2018 and he studied for a Bachelor of Business Science in Actuarial Science between 2015 and 2018. He also claimed to have been a student at the university's medical school between 2013 and 2018. But UCT said Elias did not have these qualifications, and the Health Professionals Council of South Africa said he's not registered as a medical professional. The party investigated the matter in October last year. Helen Zilla said the DA's disciplinary process has two main stages. The first is an initial investigation to determine whether a person has a case to answer. If the initial investigation by the panel of the Federal Legal Commission determines there's a case to answer, then the person must face disciplinary action. In Abdul Qadir's case, the investigation report concluded that he does not have a case to answer, and it will now go to a disciplinary hearing. Well, that's just lying. Why would you do that? Why do people do that? How about going and getting qualifications? By the way, I think the story's a bit misleading. They checked with the health professionals and said he's not a registered health professional. The fact that he went to medical school doesn't mean he's a registered health professional. Many people go to medical school and wash out. You can still put that on your curriculum vitae. I'm not defending that. I'm just saying that if you went to medical school but didn't get a degree, or even if you graduate and you don't get a medical license, doesn't mean you haven't gone to school. So let's wait and hear more on that. But I suspect the man lied about everything. Well, South African Jews are feeling under pressure with anti-Semitism purportedly on the rise. There's a sense that there is no sense that this is home. Some South African Jews claim they face increasing anti-Semitism. Here's a photograph from December with Christians and Jews taking on a large Israeli flag in the forefront of Table Mountain. The South African Jewish Board of Deputies claims that anti-Semitism in South Africa has risen by more than 600%. Some South African Jews have described feeling targeted, saying that they are considering leaving the country. However, South African Jews for Free Palestine has stressed that anti-Zionism sentiment should not be confused with anti-Semitism. Well, indeed, it should not. But then these anti-Jewish stuff is going on and on and on. Ridiculous stuff. The South African Jewish Board of Deputies claimed that anti-Semitism between October and December increased by 631% year on year. There were reportedly 139 recorded incidents between October and December compared to just 19 in 2022. 8 cases have been lodged with police. South African Jewish Board of Deputies chairperson Karen Milner said there was a sharp increase in physical attacks against Jewish persons and property, something that only occurred rarely in previous years. Among these were 6 cases of physical assault and vandalism in Jewish cemeteries in Pretoria and Durban. It is the highest level of anti-Semitic incidents in South Africa in 30 years. As a prominent Jew in the city, it's my duty to make people feel more comfortable in their skin. If people are feeling more uncomfortable, it's my job to make them comfortable. We're 4 months from the polls, and we have a chance of seeing real change. Packing up and leaving is not an option. We must stay and fight. Yeah, there you go. Even a political body like the International Court of Justice, appointed by the United Nations General Assembly, whose members are mainly non-democratic states, couldn't bring itself to impose a ceasefire in Israel, but we should not be grateful for that. They had no moral right. Anyway, all right, so yeah, Jews under assault in South Africa, according to the South African Jewish Board of Deputies. Doesn't surprise me at all. Doesn't surprise me at all. The conduct of people is repulsive. 7 arrested with rail infrastructure, stealing from the railroads, the non-existent, non-functioning South African railroads, courtesy of thieves. Police in the Western Cape arrested 7 suspects in possession of rail infrastructure valued 175,000 rand. Now imagine how much it's going to cost to replace that. The suspects, 6 of whom are foreign nationals, were arrested on Friday. Western Cape Police spokesperson Warrant Officer Joseph Swartboy said police members from the Melkbosstrand SAPs, assisted by crime prevention members from neighboring stations, followed up on information about a damage to essential infrastructure, which led them to a location on the old Mamre and Darling Road. Yep. They apprehended 7 men, 6 of whom were foreign nationals. Wow. More criminals invading South Africa and undermining infrastructure. Well, I promised you a discussion about Digital Vibes, the corruption case in which the Special Investigating Unit said that Dr. William Kesey was guilty of crimes, and they have the prima facie evidence of it. Of course, Dr. William Kesey simply resigned as health minister and remained in Parliament, sucking down a huge salary and actually voting on issues of matter to South Africa when he should be facing criminal charges. But hey, it's South Africa. If you're in the ANC, don't expect to be punished, particularly if you're high in the echelons of leadership. Well, here's one prosecution coming from Digital Vibes. Lisika Tonajeni is on trial for allegedly accepting 160,000 rand from communications company Digital Vibes while working at the Municipal Infrastructure Support Agent. Yes, he's been dismissed from MISA following a disciplinary hearing. She was found guilty of dishonesty in accepting money from a service provider and failing to disclose a conflict of interest. She was arrested in May 22 and charged with 1 count of corruption relating to a 3.9 million tender awarded to Digital Vibes back in 2018. As a project manager for the contract, allegedly accepted 160,000 bribe in 8 installments over the course of 2 years. Now, at the time, this fell under the Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, of which Zweli Mkhize was minister. Yeah, of course, Digital Vibes, Zweli Mkhize, no prosecution, no criminal charges, still sucking down a salary. The Inkatha Freedom Party condemns the violence taking place in the build-up to the elections. There's another KwaZulu-Natal politician gunned down ahead of elections. More than 150 politicians have been shot dead in the province since 2011. Inkatha Freedom Party Mabazane interim secretary Mtukolosi Sitole was killed in Venin back on January 27th. Yeah, this is the norm in places where the ANC rules. Assassination of political counselors. Like a dog chasing its tail, South Africa's ports are causing massive carnage in their export sector. Surprise, surprise, not. South Africa's port woes bite billions out of the fruit industry profits. Inefficiencies at Cape Town Port are expected to cost South Africa's fruit farmers and exporters another $2 billion in lost profits, according to fruit producer organization Hortgrow, which says the deciduous fruit season continues to be delayed after plans to clear a backlog in January failed. Transnet has launched multiple initiatives to help with the peak trading season and estimates a 14% decline in fruit exports, while Hortgrow says the figure is far worse. Yep, this is what happens when inept, corrupt politicians. Meanwhile, as South African fruit producers cannot get their fruit to ships to send to Europe and make profit and retain jobs in South Africa and bring hard currency into the country. The ANC is busy disrupting hearings about devolution as promised in the Constitution to provincial government so that they can clean up this mess that the ANC is creating. The ANC is causing chaos, claiming that devolution is anti-democratic, it's apartheid, it's all bullshit. That's the ANC. Allowing South Africans to lose their jobs, for producers to lose profits, for farms to go under because they can't get money from produce because morons run the Port of Cape Town, which is a competency of the national government. Make no mistake, folks, the low information voters, which appear to be a huge percentage of voters in South Africa and even here in the United States, are detrimental to democracy. People who don't take the time to actually become involved in the process and understand their role and believe the garbage fed to them by corrupt people whom they simply vote for based on affiliation, whether it's religious, it's ethnic, it's racial, it's linguistic. Oh, I'm voting for him because he's like me. I'm voting for her because she's a woman. That is the dumbest frickin' thing ever. You vote for the best candidate. In South Africa, you're denied that democratic right. You don't get to vote for the best candidate. You get to vote for the political party. And you get stuck with the worst candidate that these political parties put up there because of patronage and friendship in the party. It is a corrupt system. But hey, our system isn't much better in some respects. Food going to waste. Namibia's interim president says he has no plans to seek the election, which will clear the way for the hand-picked successor, a woman, to be the first woman president in South Africa. Of course, SWAPO, these commies will automatically win this election despite their unpopularity. Yep. Namibia's Nangolo Mumba, who took over as interim president on Sunday after Hage Geingob died, said he has no plans to run in elections at the end of the year. That means that Netumbo Nandi-Ndaitwah, who replaces Mumba as vice president and was nominated by the governing Southwest African People's Organization just over a year ago to be its candidate, will remain on the ballot. If she wins, she will be the Southern African nation's first female president. Well, there you go. Well, of course she'll win. It's SWAPO. Zimbabwe's ruling ZANU-PF, which has been undermining democratic rule by invalidating the seats of opposition members and then stealing results, has won 6 more seats and now has a majority in parliament, which it did not have, 2/3. Zimbabwe's governing ZANU-PF party wins 2/3 majority with crooked rolls. They won all 6 of Saturday's parliamentary by-elections. Now they have 2/3 majority in parliament. Opposition CCC allege this will allow them to tighten Mnangagwa's grip on power. Though the CCC lost last August's general elections, it took more than 100 of the 280 seats, denying ZANU-PF a supermajority. But in October, Senzo Shabangu, a name that up to that point was unknown to most people in Zimbabwe, wrote to the parliamentary speaker alleging some CCC MPs had ceased to be members of the party. The party's leader at the time, Nelson Chamisa, immediately labeled him a fake and told the speaker to ignore the letter. But they have by-elections as a ZANU-PF plant inside the CC has effectively negated the seats of people by falsely claiming that they're no longer members of the party. And see, this is the problem with these parliamentary systems. You should be voting for candidates. It doesn't matter what political party they're in. I mean, look, you look in Vermont, Bernie Sanders was a registered Democrat and changed to independent, but he didn't lose his seat in the Senate because people voted for him, not for the Democratic Party. And people continue to vote for that communist sympathizer, and that's their prerogative. Here, now the ZANU-PF government illegitimately has the ability to alter the Constitution and claim that they're democratic when in fact they've stolen governance from the voters of Zimbabwe in a disgusting and vile move. Mozambique looks to end its 50-year relationship from the Cahora Bassa Dam, built by the Portuguese before independence, a major electricity producer from the Zambezi River. Cahora Bassa producing lots of juice, which Eskom will no longer have access to under the Southern African Power Pool. Wow. Mozambique set to terminate a 50-year hydropower supply agreement with South Africa's state-owned electricity utility, raising risk for the continent's most industrialized economy and jeopardizing the future of Africa's second-largest aluminum smelter. My goodness. The country plans to redirect 1,150 megawatts of power it currently sells to South Africa from its Cahora Bassa plant for domestic use. The decision posed a major challenge for South Africa, which is contending with power cuts, courtesy of its incompetent patronage failure, Eskom. Wow. So now we'll have the following. We'll have planned maintenance, 7,600 megawatts per day. We'll have unexpected maintenance, 16,000 megawatts of generating power per day. And now we'll have another 1,000 megawatts out. So that will mean under half of the electricity that Eskom can deliver will no longer be available. Hey, how is that light working for you there? Yeah, police in Senegal are cracking down after Macky Sall undermines democracy by postponing the elections there. This is bad news for one of the most stable democracies in all of Africa. Police and protesters clash after Senegal election is postponed. Police in Senegal cracked down on protests in Dakar, and at least one senior opposition figure was arrested a day after Macky Sall announced the indefinite postponement of the presidential election scheduled for February 25th. The European Union said the postponement opens a period of uncertainty. The United States called for a swift new date for free polls. In a televised address to the nation, Macky Sall announced on Saturday that he'd been canceling the relevant electoral law, citing a dispute over candidate list. He said he signed a decree abolishing a November 2023 measure that had set the original election date, but did not give a due date. Last month, Senegal's Constitutional Council excluded some prominent opposition members from the list of candidates, as I reported right here on Chris Wyatt Reports. And look what it's led to now, the undermining of democracy, because he's not happy. Well, Senegal's parliament is now looking at being undemocratic as well. They're debating about extending Macky Sall's mandate as protests break out. Lawmakers today debate a proposal to hold a vote on August 25th and keep Macky Sall in power until his successor is installed, according to the text of the bill seen by Reuters. Senegal has never delayed a presidential vote, and uncertainty about what happens next threatens to fuel further unrest like the deadly protests of recent years that have tarnished its reputation as one of Africa's most stable democracies. Yep, well, another African democracy, decades of stability, falls apart. Yeah, Africa, where things go to crap in a heartbeat. In Kenya, the government plans to bypass a court order on the police deployment to Haiti. UN-approved mission to stem gang violence in Haiti has faced widespread criticism from activists and lawmakers, was blocked by a high court judge in January. Kenya's government will not await a court of appeal ruling before deploying its forces, senior government officials said, thereby defying the court. Abraham Korir Singoi, the principal secretary at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, told the New York Times in an interview that Haiti and Kenya were working to finalize bilateral agreement in the next 2 weeks, and that once in place, Kenyan forces would immediately deploy. 1,000 police officers are supposed to go there to stop gang violence. Good luck to those cops. They're going to be sent to a place to die that they probably shouldn't be in. The United Kingdom's premier aircraft carrier is tits up. UK's aircraft carrier, flagship carrier, suffers new misfortune and won't lead a major NATO exercise. The HMS Queen Elizabeth had issues with its starboard propeller shaft. Back in 2019, it was left without propulsion for days and flooded. Good Lord. HMS Queen Elizabeth, the Royal Navy's flagship, had to pull out of its role, leading the largest NATO exercise since the Cold War at the last minute. Routine pre-sailing checks identified an issue with the coupling on the 65,000-ton warship's starboard propeller shaft, preventing it from sailing yesterday. Despite its standing as UK Royal Navy's fleet flagship, HMS Queen Elizabeth has suffered a series of embarrassing mishaps since it was commissioned back in 2017. Stop making your ships in China. No, that wasn't made in China. Fire kills dozens in Chile. A follow-up on a story we reported on yesterday, with many more feared dead. Wildfire spread across a swath of seaside cities popular with tourists, destroying thousands of homes. Forest fires roared across a heavily populated swath of central Chile, killing about 100 people and destroying over 3,000. When I last reported, it was a dozen people and 1,000 homes. Some 370 people are now missing. Mayor Macarena Ripamonti of Vina del Mar said Sunday. He said her city, along with the hillside communities around the port city of Valparaiso, have borne the brunt of the damage from the fires that began on Friday. On Sunday, as he toured the hard-hit town of Kulupborik, the president said the disaster was the worst since an 8.8 magnitude earthquake and tsunami back in 2010 that killed more than 500 people. Thoughts and prayers to Chileans as they deal with this horrific situation. Well, the corrupt Congress here in the United States has reached a border deal which will allow even more people to come into this country. Yeah, they increased the number of people allowed to come here legally. Why? There's no reason for that. We have more than enough immigrants coming here legally, and there's a process for it. A corrupt deal between rhinos and the corrupt jackass Joe administration. Border deal expands legal immigration, new powers to expel illegal immigrants. You have all the power you need to expel illegal immigrants, but this corrupt regime refuses to do their job and violates federal law. Senators revealed a new border deal yesterday, the backers said would end the cycle of catch and release of illegal immigrants that has led to unprecedented chaos at the southern border under Jackass Joe. The bill would expand the government's deportation force, try to speed up immigration court hearings, and give the president new powers to block illegal immigrants at the border, although only after the flow averages more than 4,000 migrants a day. So these criminals in our Senate believe it's okay to allow 4,000 criminal alien invaders to violate our sovereignty and flood into this country every day before the administration even has to begin to take action. This is repulsive. This is anti-democratic. This is anti-American. This is lawlessness. This must be brought to an end. It cannot be tolerated. Throw the bums out. Vote every idiot that signs this bill out of the Senate. Yep. It will make our country safer, make our border more secure, treat people fairly and humanely while preserving legal immigration consistent with our values as a nation, Mr. Biden said. You're full of it. Our system works. You simply have to adhere to it and stop lying. Wow. Unbelievable, folks. Well, the Federal Reserve Chairman Powell has said that, hey, a rate cut's coming. So if you're making money off those CDs, you might want to go now, those certificates deposit, and put more money in those short-term ones and get those high interest rates before they come back down. Yep, the time is coming for a rate cut. Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell said the time is coming to cut interest rates, but ask Americans for a bit more patience in the central bank's fight against inflation. The economy is strong, and the central bank will likely lower interest rates later this year. But it's just not likely to happen in March, as they thought they were going to do. So, in other words, the Federal Reserve had told us they were going to lower interest rates in March, but now they find out that they can't lower interest rates in March because Joe Biden's inflation continues to gallop across the economic spectrum. So this is not good news. This is a failure on the part of the Federal Reserve, their failure to do their job. So there you go. Thank you, Jerome Powell. No thanks. A federal judge has rejected a challenge to mail-in ballots in North Dakota. Dismissed a lawsuit challenging North Dakota's mail-in ballot law that allows ballots to be counted for days after the election. A federal judge has dismissed a lawsuit brought by the legal foundation focused on election integrity cases that sought to invalidate North Dakota law that allows mail-in ballots to be counted for 13 days after Election Day. The complaint is dismissed, said Judge Traynor, an appointee of Donald Trump. Lawsuit filed back in July 2023 by the Public Interest Legal Foundation on behalf of the Burleigh County Auditor Mark Splonkowski. Splonkowski was concerned that he would be charged with a misdemeanor crime because the law contradicts the Constitution. And so he found himself in a difficult spot. So they wanted to get it sorted, but I guess the judge just leaves the guy in legal jeopardy, not giving a flying flip about him. Well, the New Jersey-based gang of criminal alien invaders charging $6,000 a head to smuggle criminal alien invaders into the United States through Canada. New Jersey-based migrant gang is smuggling hordes of illegal immigrants into the U.S. across the Canadian border for a price of $6,000 a head. And what have I been telling you the entire time I've done this broadcast? The attention is focused on the southern border while our northern border is completely unsecure, and tens of thousands of criminal alien invaders are flooding across our border from Vancouver to Nova Scotia, pouring across our border daily, and nobody's taking notice. Nobody's taking notice. These jackasses in the Senate, in the House, in the White House have ignored this threat. Human smuggling gang took root after its founders were briefly detained and cut loose by federal immigration authorities. So they captured the ringleaders of the syndicate and they let them loose. They are criminal alien invaders from Guatemala and Colombia, and they snuck across the Mexican border and set up shop in New Jersey, running a lucrative scheme while dodging the feds. U.S. Border Patrol agents grapple with an overwhelming flow of asylum seekers from Mexico who are not asylum seekers. They're fraudulent economic migrants. The Jersey-based gang has helped spark an under-the-radar surge in crossings along the northern border, while the U.S. government ignored my warnings and the media ignored this story that I've talked about for year after year after year. The Canadian border is dangerous. It is a place that we're having our sovereignty undermined, and it is time for this to be dealt with effectively. But it won't be, not by Jackass Joe. Hundreds of thousands are without power. No, not in South Africa, in California. The paradise, the socialist paradise of California, because of storms. Yes, infrastructure collapsing over there. Screaming winds and continual rainfall are pounding the state, with fears growing of a more severe impact to come. Want to bet that the New York Times blames it on climate change? Yeah, rain fell steadily. Yep. Dumping precipitation onto an already soaked lowlands and mountains for more than 24 hours. Look at that. 5-day precipitation forecast. Look at all that rain in especially dry areas. That's a lot of rain. Must be climate change. Climate change. Are we still on the air? What's going on? Hang on. Let's see if we're still in the air. I don't even know if we're still live. Oh, we are still live. Okay. I didn't see any chat. So when there's no chat, I wonder if we're still on. Anyway. Yes. Well, I mentioned to the Oglala Sioux have barred the governor of South Dakota, Kristi Noem, from visiting their reservation over a politically motivated tiff between their leftist-leaning president of the Oglala Sioux and the governor. The tribe bars the South Dakota governor from its land over her border remarks. Largest tribe in South Dakota has barred the state's governor from its lands for a second time in the last 5 years after her speech about curbing migration at the U.S.-Mexico border offended the tribal president. Why would Frank Starr comes out, the president of the Oglala Sioux, be offended by her comments about the Mexican border when he lives in South Dakota, clear on the other side of the country? Due to the safety of the Ote, effective immediately, you are hereby banished from the homelands of the Oglala Sioux tribe. Starr comes out, said in a statement, safety, how is the safety of the Oglala Sioux affected by her comments about the border of Mexico? This is rank political behavior. Whatever the Oglala Sioux, they should recall Frank Starr comes out and, find out what his problem is. Get rid of him. Well, Donald Trump says there's going to be changes in the Republican Party. Oh, yeah. There will be leadership change in the RNC. So Ronna McDaniel is short for this role. Former President Trump said there will be probably some changes to the Republican National Committee leadership if he has anything to say about it. He made the comments during an interview with Maria Bartiromo on Sunday Morning Futures. He says the RNC doesn't seem so strong. I mean, the Democrats have all the money. Which, of course, refutes the notion that Democrats have lied about for years. The Republicans are the party of big business, and they don't like unions. They don't like the little guy. They take all the money from Wall Street. It's all lies. Remember when McCain ran against Obama? Obama had $87 million in money from Wall Street firms, and McCain had $5 million. But McCain, the callow, weak candidate that he was, refused to even actually point that reality out, expecting to lose the nomination, but stroke his ego for the ultimate finally running for president, John McCain. Yep. Well, I'd be terrified to rent my home out if I lived in Atlanta. Squatters taking over homes, including a military person. Wow. A staggering 1,200 homes in Georgia City are now occupied by squatters, with cops taking up to 6 months to rip them out of these homes. Yep. Atlanta is battling a squatting crisis as 1,200 homes have been overtaken and landlords have to clear the unwanted residents themselves or wait months for police. Unbelievable. Every incident of illegal occupation means there's one less home available for a family in need of quality single-family rental housing. In October, an Atlanta home was taken over by squatters who ran an illegal strip club inside on weekends and kept horses on the property. The FBI had to get involved and arrested 4 people who had taken up residence in South Fulton without permission. The 4,000 square foot 5-bedroom home with 3 bathrooms was trashed by the squatters. Photos from inside the house after the FBI cleared it showed the halls eerily empty, save for a cartoonish green lizard painted on one wall. Other walls were covered in dark scuff marks. And here are the scumbags who are stealing people's property. DeAnthony Maddox, Jeremy Wyatt, Kevin Hall, and Taraji Ford arrested. Trash littered the property with half-finished water bottles, a crumpled plastic bag, and a bottle of Pink Whitney, a popular lemonade-infused vodka. Last year, deployed Lieutenant Colonel Dalia Dare said she felt violated when she learned that a man was squatting in her home while she was away on active military service. She told local media that Vincent Simon, a man who had been convicted on guns, drugs, and theft charges, was living in her $500,000 home. The Army officer had been away from her residence for duty in Chicago and only found out he had moved in as the house was in the process of being sold. I feel violated. Had I not been serving my country, I would have been in my home, she told the television station. There is Lieutenant Colonel Dalia Dare, whose home was stolen from her. The active duty officer was told by police they could not evict Simon and that the issue was considered a civil matter. Stealing a veteran's home, and the police do not want to get involved. I want to go out and shoot out the windows, turn off the water, cut wires, but I can't. That's a crime. Law-abiding citizens can't do that. Meanwhile, the criminals occupy her home. The massive 4,300 square foot estate has 5 beds and 5 baths and was valued at $495,000. Before the listing, she had been renting it out and had even put out an estimated $35,000 in renovations. The squatter initially presented police with a lease that he said showed him having paid $19,000 to stay in the property for 6 months. Of course, that was bogus. The convicted criminal installed cameras and put up "Beware of Dog" signs in addition to covering the windows with cardboard. She urged the police to investigate, and they discovered the lease was fake. There you go. So they only took action then, not when a lieutenant colonel on active duty said that my home has been stolen. Can you believe this? Never mind your belongings inside the home. This is some sick stuff. Sick stuff. Wall Street Journal opinion piece sets tongues wagging, calling the Wall Street Journal racist, and anti-Arab, when they simply point out the obvious. Wall Street Journal opinion piece calls Dearborn the jihad capital, and Biden condemns anti-Arab hate. Well, jihad is not Arab. President Joe Biden denounced anti-Arab rhetoric in response to Wall Street Journal opinion piece targeting Dearborn, Michigan, that the mayor called bigoted and Islamophobic. Wall Street Journal published a piece on Friday headlined as "Welcome to Dearborn, America's Jihad Capital," suggesting the city's residents, including religious leaders and politicians, supported Palestinian Islamist group Hamas and extremism. Well, that's because it's true. It's true. And here's the Wall Street Journal op-ed piece that they're talking about. Welcome to Dearborn, America's jihad capital. Imams and politicians in Michigan City side with Hamas against Israel and Iran against the U.S. And here they are. Look at all these people in Dearborn, Michigan. Oh, yeah. Unconstrained migration, people who don't respect your values, who don't believe in the things that you believe in. It's such a great, diverse idea. Thousands march in support of Hamas, Hezbollah, and Iran. Protesters, many with keffiyehs covering their faces, shout, "Intifada, intifada. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. And America is a terrorist state." This is what we allow in our country. Local imams give fiery anti-Semitic sermons. This isn't the Middle East. It's Detroit suburb of Dearborn, Michigan. Almost immediately after October 7th and long before Israel began its ground offensive in Gaza, people were celebrating the horrific events of the day in pro-Hamas rallies and marches throughout Dearborn. Yeah. So the Wall Street Journal is perfectly correct in its op-ed about what's happening in Dearborn, Michigan. This was warned by a CNN journalist back in the early 1990s after the Oklahoma City bombing with Timothy McVeigh. He was in Oklahoma City and saw the vile propaganda, the incitement to murder and terrorism that was being sold in these meetings of Islamic groups showing up at conventions. Shocked, he reported on and was blackballed by CNN. His career was over. I can't remember his name now, but I did go to a presentation he gave once upon a time. Now, this has been going on for 40 years in this country as we foolishly allow people who do not share our values to enter our country and undermine our national security at every turn. And now people have been here and have a second generation, people like Rashida Tlaib, a vile anti-American hater who has been born in this country because we allowed her parents from Palestine to go to university here and let them stay in our country, and their hatred of America while they undermine this country from within. Unbelievable. Boeing finds a new problem with the 737 MAX fuselages. Misdrilled holes on Spirit Aerosystems fuselages will require work on 50 jets and could delay deliveries. Boeing is reworking 50 undelivered 737 MAX jets after a supplier's employee recently found misdrilled holes on some fuselages. Spirit Aerosystems, which has been at the center of quality issues affecting 737's supply to fuselages. Boeing said the issue could delay some deliveries in the near term and that existing 737s can keep flying. I don't know about that. This is the only course of action given our commitment to deliver perfect airplanes every time, said Boeing's commercial chief Stan Deal in a memo to staff on Sunday. Well, I don't know about that, folks. I tell you, I get a little bit nervous flying in a Boeing aircraft at this point, which flown with confidence for decades, but now who knows what's going on. 35 likes, that's all we've got. My goodness, that sucks. What's going on there? What's going on there? Let's say hello to everybody else in the chat. What else we got here? Tanya DeBeer's here. Hey, Tanya, how's it going? And she loves this song. Yep, okay, what else? Val Cooper, Mr. Punisher, John Mosline. Hey, John, good to see you there. And Val Cooper, what's this? The crew got rain. I still hope my registration will come through. I hope so too, Gabriel. Wow, you're very early, says Freelance Kate. Yeah, I have other things going on today, and that may be the case throughout the next week. I might be broadcasting very early, so just to give you a heads up, if I broadcast at all. The group was called Scorpio. You can look it up. Okay, we identified and reported an anti-Semitic group in Cape Town causing vandalism. Made a front page of 70s Cape Argus, I think. Really warned the South African Jews this was going to be the outcome of Israel's actions. In response, I was called a Hamas terrorist, upgraded to a beheader of babies, and now a Hamas rapist. Jews called you that? According to what's going on in shipping, South Africa is getting 30% more ship traffic because of the Suez. Well, that's a very different situation, Tony. A very different situation. South Africa is not getting 30% more. 30% more traffic is going around the Cape of Good Hope. Doesn't mean it's coming to South African ports. They had no business going to South African ports. They were going to Europe or to the Middle East or India. So now they simply have to go around. So that's a misleading statistic that someone's reporting. Hendrik LaRue watching live. Well, thank you, Hendrik, for being here. Bye a donkey. All right. South Africa refused the United Nations order to withdraw from the terror 2066. SWAPO turned armed struggle. Their strength lay in the Ovambo people. Did you copy that out of Wikipedia? Yes, the United Nations had no authority to order South Africa to leave Southwest Africa because the United Nations did not grant the mandate. It was the League of Nations that gave South Africa the mandate, and that's where it came from. Only the League of Nations had the authority to remove that mandate. So, yeah. Cartel controlled. Okay. Woke Australian family put a plaque stating this land is Aboriginal tribe owned. They showed up and demanded that people leave. Good for them. Spiker Hunt says, hey, who's the good guys and who's the bad guys now between General Bourguignon and those bite lenders? I don't know what you're talking about there. Are you talking about sight lenders and the Bourguignon? What are you looking for? What answer are you looking for here? Arab is also not a Greek speaking. Huh? Oh, excellent. Father asked whether you think reporting the truth about the ANC on your channel dissuades South Africans from watching your channel. No. In fact, it should encourage more South Africans to watch my channel. I don't really care if people who support the ANC watch my channel, the EFF. I don't care. I really don't care because there's no hope for them. Anybody who would vote for the African National Congress after 30 years of this complete incompetence is hopeless. There's no hope for them. You cannot convince people who are self-delusional, people who vote against their own interests. I mean, there's nothing you can do to help those people. They're beyond help. So watching my channel is not going to help them. I mean, we have some people come on here all the time who obviously follow the ANC or support the ANC and make the most ludicrous, contorted, twisted arguments to support their position. And, that's fine. You can support your position, but, most of them are not watching my channel. They're never going to watch my channel. My goal is for a large audience, which hopefully we get, a large audience from around the world to expose what's happening in South Africa and around the world. People need to know. Look, you can disagree with what I say, but, let's bring the facts to the fore. People don't like facts. Facts are uncomfortable. People just like their opinions. Unsubstantiated opinions not backed up by cogent, lucid thinking or analysis. People love their opinions. We all got opinions, just like we all got bums. Yep. So, no, I don't think it's dissuading South Africans from watching my channel. I think what's dissuading South Africans from watching my channel is the past history of trolls who lied about the channel and the misreported the channel. And then, of course, you've also got the people who are on the right or center right who believe in all kinds of BS that's just pure fiction. I mean, you got people actually out there that believe that I work for a certain government agency. I mean, that's just comical. Really? I work for a certain government agency? You're not very bright. You're not very well informed if you actually believe that. And, you really are a sucker and will believe anything if you believe that. I mean, could I be any more transparent, open about what my background is, who I am? I mean, would an intelligence officer tell you his 30 years of intelligence experience? Would an intelligence officer tell you the places he's been? Would an intelligence officer mention people whom he's interacted with all these years just to be a secret plant for a government agency on a YouTube channel? Do you really think that? Also, do you think that a YouTube channel would only have 14,000 subscribers if it was backed by an exclusive government agency with billions of dollars at its disposal? I'd have millions of people watching my channel. If nothing else, they'd be all fake bots and they'd be protected between collusion between YouTube and that government agency. And it would say, oh, Chris Wyatt Reports has 2.8 million viewers and he gets 5,000 people per live stream. But that doesn't happen. I mean, the plausibility of the nonsense people come up with. And this moron hate wanker, oh, he's a white supremacist. Where do you get white supremacy from, you weak-minded individual? Where have I ever said that white people are better than other? No, I've never said that. Never said that. And I've never shown that in any of my actions in my entire life. All my entire life. Well, no, it's not a real colonel. Not a real colonel. Are you serious? Go talk to the Botswana Defense Force. Talk to the South African National Defense Force. Talk to the Tunisian Armed Forces. Go to Nicklin d'État-Major and look up the graduating class of 2001. I mean, this is ridiculous nonsense. People are suckers who will believe anything. Just because you don't like me? Fine, don't like me. Go sit in a corner and hate wank. That's all your prerogative. But don't be a sucker and fall for liars who are desperate for attention because they're just sad, pathetic little trolls who chew on eucalyptus leaves or hate wank their way through the canals of Amsterdam. I mean, it's ludicrous, man. It's absolutely ludicrous. I mean, it's if it wasn't so damaging, it would be comical. Louis Fivas, hey man, long time. They range. Why worry about their color? Huh? Whose color? I don't know what you're talking about, man. That comment's from 8:47. It's 8:54. I missed that. Can you come back and let me know what you're talking about? Are you talking to me, by the way, Louis, or are you talking to somebody else? Boeing forwarded meters of this dodgy titanium pipe for the engines once in production line a few years ago. Didn't know that. Thanks, Spiker. My father says he likes how you report it as. Well, I do. I tell it like it is. And I tell people that, people that's not, well, photo ID to vote is racist. Really? Why do we spend billions of dollars ensuring people have photo IDs in Afghanistan and Iraq, and we put ink on their thumbs so they can't vote twice? But apparently asking folks to have photo ID in America is racist. Wow, the most advanced industrial country in the world cannot manage to have photo IDs for people? It's total nonsense. Never mind the fact that people that say that, well, it targets minorities. It targets minorities? Requiring photo ID targets minorities. So when minorities go to the package store to buy booze and they have to show photo ID, are they being targeted unfairly? Everybody has to show photo ID. When they go to buy cigarettes in most states, they have to show photo ID. Is that targeting minorities? No, everybody has to show photo ID. When you go to the bank to cash a check, is that targeting minorities? No, it's not targeting minorities. It is what everyone must do. And suddenly, when it comes to voting, minorities don't have ID card, but they can get their prescription drugs. They can go to medical facility. They can get booze. They can get cigarettes. They can pick up all of that with photo ID. But the day it's time for election, well, suddenly, black folks don't have ID. I'll call it like it is. That's just nonsense. That's nonsense. And people fall for it because they're stupid. They're stupid to believe that. They're stupid. And I'll just say it right there. If you believe that, you're stupid. You're stupid. No, but, no, there's no buts here. There's no buts. It's quite simple. Anybody can get a photo ID. Well, they don't have documentation. Well, I didn't have a birth certificate. I only had a copy of my birth certificate because my parents lived all over the country. And I managed to get a freaking photo ID when I was 17. Strange how that works, isn't it? Very strange how that works. I think you missed a comment about voter registration only if you moved. I saw the comment, Ken, but I didn't understand why you responded to that. He's living in Switzerland, so he's registering online from remote. So you're saying it affects him. Fred B. Kevin, Chris, what do you think of Charles Cronier's comment on a DA-ANC coalition potentially being a smart next step? I haven't seen that. And who is Charles Cronier? I know Franz Cronier, but who's Charles Cronier? Fred B. Kevin, it's not a smart step. It will not improve South Africa. What it will do is it will allow the DA into power in a minority relationship like the Movement for Democratic Change did foolishly in 2008 with the ZANU-PF party. When Mugabe refused to lose power, even though it was clear, despite all the cheating in that election, that he had lost as president. And Morgan Tsvangirai should have been the president, but they created the artificial post of prime minister with no powers, and they gave the MDC the Treasury Department, ministry, so that they could fix the economy, which they did. They retained control of the intelligence, the police, and all the real levels of power like the military, so they could threaten and intimidate opposition parties, and that's what they did. And then as the MDC began to fix Zimbabwe with the limited powers it had, they were marginalized, eventually pushed out, and we saw what happened in Zimbabwe. Same thing will happen in South Africa. If the DA foolishly goes into a coalition with the ANC, they will simply undermine themselves. If the DA goes into a coalition with the ANC, they will lose fully 1/3 of the current support they have, if not half, in the next time election. People will not vote for the Democratic Alliance ever again. They will not trust it. And I don't want to hear how many pleas they say, well, it was necessary. It was the only way to form a government. It's so chaotic. Italy had 70 different governments from 1945 until 2000. And somehow people survived and the country worked. The roads functioned, despite the fact that every couple months the government was overthrown in a vote of no confidence. So I don't want to hear anything from the Democratic Alliance. You have committed to the multi-party charter. You must uphold that commitment. I've seen no indication that they're not going to uphold that, but a lot of people suspect that they will not adhere to the agreement they made. Well, if they do, it will be the end of the Democratic Alliance. So my recommendation to them is follow through on the promises you made to the voters. You admitted you're CIA. I didn't admit anything. Were you smoking something there, Spiker Hunt? Where do you get that stuff from, man? Is that Daga? Is it is it Mandrax? What are you enjoying there, man? Yeah. Trick is us. Bloody mercenary. Oh, you're being facetious. Okay, Spiker Hunt. People vote for their fears, not their aspirations. The ANC will be rewarded as liberators and custodians of the revolution since the voters of the ANC are divorced from the outcomes of the ANC rule. Well, they're also divorced from reality, Casper, because the ANC is not the party of liberation. That's a fake claim. That's a fake claim. The Black Sash movement, the Black Consciousness movement, Steve Biko, the Pan-African Congress, the commies that they are, they did more than the ANC did. The ANC fomented a civil war and murdered thousands of Nkata supporters in KZN. That's what the ANC did. The ANC fomented unrest in Soweto in 76 and in 85 in particular. The ANC didn't accomplish freedom and liberation for people. That's a fool's belief. That's a sucker's game, because the low information voter has been told that by a corrupt ANC which controls power and creates museums in which they constantly crowd out all the other actors who actually led South Africa. But let's be honest here. The Black Sash movement, Steve Biko's Black Consciousness movement, the Pan-African Congress, the ANC, none of them are the reason why there is no more apartheid. The reason there's no more apartheid, the system couldn't sustain itself. And not because of demographics, although that would have happened eventually. It couldn't sustain itself because the reason for existing, its raison d'être, its reason for being, disappeared. The boogeyman of communism went away when the Soviet Union collapsed. And the minority government in South Africa could no longer convince South African white voters that the black threat and the red threat were coming for them. And people said enough is enough. And 62% voted for change, and change came. Not because of the ANC, not because of Nkata, not because of the Black Sash movement, not because of Helen Suzman, not because of the Pan-African Congress, not because of Mkhonto Sizwe, definitely not because of Mkhonto Sizwe, the useless band of merry little fools. No. Apartheid ended because the gig was up. The ANC can claim a liberation mantle all they want, but it's a factual fairy tale. Yep. When the ANC leaves, South Africa will prosper like never before. No, Tony, they won't, because the bureaucracy is full of ANC inept patronage hires. Until those people are pushed out of government and competent people replace them, they will subvert what's going on. Look what happened in the Trump administration with a corrupt federal bureaucracy that violated the Logan Act. Instead of being non-political, were actually political, undermining the presidency of the United States during Trump's 4 years in office. And as a consequence, much of what Trump tried to accomplish was frustrated or unable to be achieved because of inept or corrupt bureaucrats who had political views instead of doing their job. So that's the truth right there, folks. Gotta face the facts. Yeah, okay. Trick is to be less educated and play dumb. All right, that's true. Oh, Franz Cronje, yeah. Okay, Fred, Franz Cronje. Well, somebody mentioned Franz Cronje said that yesterday, and he's a pretty smart guy. I'd love to interview him sometime, but I'm just busy right now. And I've actually never asked him because I don't have a contact for him. But no, I think he's wrong. But look, Franz Cronje is late to the party, folks. He's late to the party. Roman Kabanak and Morning Shot made this argument months ago. I made this argument around the same time or before that. I don't recall when it was. Many people have talked about this, about the DA getting into an alliance with the ANC. I said that possibility before I even went to the multi-party charter at Emperor's Palace last August. I was already talking about the possibility of a ANC-DA coalition. So Franz Cronje is a bit late to the game if he's making. Now, he may have said the same thing months ago, but it wasn't in the press. But yeah, no, it's not a good move, and it will be the death of the DA should they do something so stupid. Chad says, geez, you got to see the new video released by News 24, the latest Dobson cash and transit ice? No, I didn't see it. It must be pretty crazy, though. Yeah, South Africa is a war zone. It is a war zone. But hey, Washington, D.C. and Chicago are war zones. We have a former Trump official who worked in the finance sector who went to pick his wife up on K Street at 5:45 in the evening a couple of days back. This man jumps in his car, shoots him in the head, and steals his car. He just died yesterday in the hospital from the gunshot wound to his head. This thief then went and stole multiple other cars over the next 18 hours before police finally shot him dead in Maryland. If you're wondering where K Street is, folks, it's 2 blocks from the White House. 2 blocks from the White House. It's walking distance from the White House. I've been there many, many times. Well, it's actually maybe 3 or 4 blocks, but it's within striking distance of the White House. And K Street is not, some slum. It's not Southeast DC. It's not a urban blight. It is an upscale place where people who make millions of dollars as lobbyists work on K Street. It's famous for being known for lobbyists who lobby Congress because that's right down the street, a few blocks the other direction. Man shot in the head. Another man was killed too, but the media didn't pay attention to that because he was Hispanic. He was killed. This idiot shot and murdered 2 people. That person was killed on the scene, and the Trump official died from a gunshot wound to his head later on. This is in Washington, D.C. This is Joe Biden's paradise of America. Chicago actually just passed a referendum 23-22 by the morons in the city council calling for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza. How about an immediate ceasefire in the city of Chicago where 617 people were murdered and gunned down in the gangland Wild West of Chicago in 2023? Thousands of shooting incidents, 2,400 plus in that city, and 617 casualties as a consequence of it. But hey, now we're going to worry about Gaza. Give me a break. Does Steve support any of his board friends there in Holland, or are they on their own? I don't know what you're talking about. Don't know what you're talking about. Hey, don't indoctrinate my meds. Don't discriminate my meds. Okay. Alan Fredericks. Hey, Acid Zill's here. And I agree, Chris. DA voters won't be able to stomach coalition ANC. Perhaps the thinking is eat the elephant from within. That may be the thinking, but that just shows you how out of touch people are. If members of the Democratic Alliance actually believe, and we have no evidence of this, so I'm not making this claim, but if members of the Democratic Alliance actually believe that teaming up with the ANC will give them a chance to fix things and that it's the best course, they are delusional. They will lose 1/3 to half their support, and they will die as an opposition party. There's a multi-party already between the DA and Action SA. Gabriel, you're talking about the multi-party charter. Well, I know. I covered it. I was there in Emperor's Palace. I was there. And I spoke and interviewed Herman Mashaba. I spoke and interviewed John Steenhuisen. I spoke and interviewed Neil DeBeer and others who were part of that coalition, which is now, I think, 10 or 11 parties have now joined it. There were only 6 at the time. Yep. SBOC, it's your birthday. Ooh, SBOC has a birthday. Let's go ahead and get that up there, folks. Where is it at? Oh, there we go. It used to show. I got to rename this file. So, birthday cake. Happy birthday to SBOC. There you go. There you go. Cheers. Got to beat traffic. Thanks for your cast, Louis. You're welcome, Louis. Thanks for being here. You're headed home from work, I take it. Yep, there you go. Happy birthday, folks. Give a little applause, a thumbs up, a happy birthday for SBOC today. SBOC must be at least 15 years of age today. Tony says, next time, Colonel, is there... I'm going to ask, where is Colonel? You reply, I will know. Okay. Well, Chris in Africa. Yep. Yeah, anyway, so... All right, Bernard is the first to wish SBOC a happy birthday. Pretty cool. Hey, I'm wearing a Stormers hoodie, in case for those who aren't really aware of that. Check it out. There you go. It's got this really cool Stormers logo down here, stitched right there. Yeah, I love this thing. This is a really good one. I bought this through the mail. It was one of these sales that one of these sites had. It's an all Cape Town day right here in the studio. Look, we got a little Cape Town license plate. Table Mountain in the background. It's an all Cape Town day. Yep. Anyway, yeah, folks, happy birthday to SBOC. Did Hester say? Hester also said happy birthday. Here you go. I missed that. Excuse me. Oh, my goodness. Need more sleep. Oh, Chad says when Chris comes after, he becomes the CIA agent, Chris an Africa agent. That's true. That is true. That is absolutely true. If you don't like what somebody's saying in chat, folks, what you do is you just right-click on them and you can block their comments. You don't see their comments. They're just gone. If you think I'm addressing their comments too much, to say, hey, can you ignore that person? And I try to keep it reasonable. And if people are trolling, I drop away. So anyway, yeah. Look, the DA should never go into an alliance with the ANC. They've done it at municipal level, thinking it could work, and it didn't work. It didn't work. They went into coalitions with the ANC at municipal level, and it failed every time. Because the ANC is not concerned about governance. They're concerned about rapacious kleptocracy, enriching themselves, their egos, their blue light escorts, their multi-million-dollar homes, the money they steal from the public. That's what they're interested in. Enriching the cater friends. That's what they're interested in. I have no idea what's going on there. All right, so S-Box says, much appreciated, feel special and important. Well, I'm glad you feel special and important, although I think you're laughing there, so maybe you don't. Tony says, as judge of elections, can you explain your duty? Yeah, I'm allowed to talk about it, absolutely. Let me take off the birthday cake for S-Box. Okay, so judge of election. Okay, so in Pennsylvania, it's similar in many states, but I can tell you Pennsylvania specifically because that's where I'm a judge of election. So a judge of election is responsible for the conduct and execution of election events on election day and for securing the results, the ballots, the digital cards, all of that stuff, and turning it in to the county so it can be tallied and added up. Our election machines are not linked to the network, so they're standalone. So in every precinct in the county and around the state, these machines are not linked to a central thing. So what you do is you have to get a team of volunteers. It's up to the judge to find people. Now, the county has names of people who've volunteered in the past, so that gives you a baseline to start. And I've largely drawn from that list and added to that list over time as a judge. And what you do is have to get a team. Now, I have the second largest precinct in this county, York County, and over 5,000, close to 6,000 registered voters, which is quite a few. So I need more volunteers because we have to keep the lines from being long. So we typically have tables set up, although the last time they changed things for us a little bit, we'd have tables set up for like A through K and L through M, something like that. And five different tables set up there with 2 volunteers at each table. The person comes up, identifies himself. If it's their first time voting, they have to show photo ID. Otherwise, they don't. But they can also show like a utility bill, some sort of what is considered identification. The voters go, the poll workers go through the book, and the poll workers look at one side of the book, and they can see it what they're reading. And then the other side, the person signs on, and they sign, and they hand them a ballot. They go into the voting room, and they have privacy with a little divider there. They sit down, they use a Sharpie to mark up their ballots for candidates and issues. And then they go to the next room, which is where the voting machines are at from Dominion. They put them in there, and they go through the machine. We have someone watching the machines to aid them if there's a problem. As the judge of elections, once I turn the machines on, reset them so there's no votes on there, we print out a tape to prove that there was no votes on there, and then that gets turned into the Elections Bureau at the end of the day. And those machines are locked up with a key. Only I have the key. No one can open up those machines because the physical ballots go through the scanner. They get deposited in the bottom, and they get collected. So we have digital and hard copy results of the ballots. And then what happens is... So I never go in the room. I pop my head by the entrance, but I don't go in the room. That way I have no effect on what's going on during the day. However, if there is an incident, I'm the only one with the key to come in. The last election, which was my fourth election doing this, for the first time ever, I had to go in the room because one of the machines was jammed and they couldn't unjam it. So they had to call me and open it. And then we retrieved the ballot out, and the person was able to put the ballot back in, and it was counted. And so, yeah, but then we locked it back up, and I left. But I have to organize the volunteers. I have to open the polling station, open the building at 6 a.m. and open the voting at 7 a.m., which is not a lot of time to get it done. But we can't get in that building until 6 because of the situation where it's at. And then we're there until the thing is over. I stay the whole day. There's no breaks. You don't go anywhere. My poll workers can work a half day or a whole day. Most work the whole day. It's a long day for them. They do get compensated, but it's not a real wage. I mean, I get compensated as well. But the amount of time I put in there pays me less for an entire day than I would make in a single hour of consulting fees doing business consulting. So it's not about that. It's about contributing to the democratic process. And the people who do it are very dedicated and work really hard. I have one volunteer. She's the last person people see. She's 90 years of age. She had her 90th birthday a few days before our last election in November. And I went and bought her a cake, and we gave her a cake to celebrate her 90th birthday, which she really appreciated. She's a lovely lady. She's the sticker lady. So when you vote, you get one of these stickers that Pennsylvania always gives to people who voted. It says, I voted. And you put that on your shirt so people know you voted that day, did your civic responsibility. It also encourages other people to go vote. So she hands out the stickers to the people who vote at the end. She's the last person they see. Lovely lady. And if there's any disputes as a judge of election, I have to deal with that. So we have a number of people who believe they're registered and they're not in the book. So what they have to do is file a provisional ballot. I handle all provisional ballots, and then we have someone come by, one of my minority and majority inspector, and the majority inspector comes by or minority and signs the sheet to verify the vote. It goes in a separate envelope. Inside a separate envelope, it gets signed for. There's a sticker. They get information on how they can check to make sure the ballot got counted after the fact. It's all very well laid out, but it's quite a bit of work, a lot of time, and there are dozens, hundreds of judges of elections around the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. So that's a bit about that. Now, unfortunately for me, my physical location is the furthest away from where the Board of Elections is, in the southern part of the county. No one is further away than I am, so it takes a good half hour to drive down to the Board of Elections at night. And because deer like to run, going directly straight, line of sight from here to there, which is possible, I don't do it because it's a secondary road and deer jump out. In fact, the other night I was driving and almost hit a deer. And this isn't the time of year when you usually see deer running across the road. I was going under the speed limit. I saw a deer. I slowed down even more, and then another deer came from the other side of the road, going the other direction, which is rare. Usually they all come from one side. Well, this one ran across right in front of me, and I was only going 40 kilometers an hour, and I hit the brakes and missed him by about 2 meters right in front of me. Otherwise, I would have had an accident and my car would be trashed. Yeah, so I typically drive up to the turnpike, which costs me $5 just to use the turnpike out of my pocket. I don't get compensated for that. And then drive down the interstate, the main highway where deer aren't crossing, to turn the stuff in. By the time I get home, it's usually after 11 p.m., 11:30, because that's how long it takes. The polls close at 8:30. Is it 8 o'clock? I'm trying to remember 8 o'clock. Anyway, yeah, they close then, but it takes me that long to get everything done. So, yeah, anyway. It's about the only time I disagree with Morning Shot saying a coalition is going to be DA. Yeah, Bernard, was their projection. I'm not claiming there will be a coalition. I'm just saying that people are talking about it. All right, Spiker, calm down. People want to have you blocked, and they're making a good argument, so knock it off. Is there any truth to Texas having its own military? What's your take? Well, I don't know what you mean by its own military. Every state has its own military, if that's what you mean. Every state in our system has a National Guard, and the territories. Puerto Rico has a National Guard. So the 4 territories also have a National Guard. D.C. Has a National Guard. They have 3,800 military members who are Army soldiers who respond to the mayor of D.C. In all the states, they respond to the governor. So Texas has a National Guard. In fact, I don't know how large it is. Ohio, when I was in the Ohio National Guard, had 20,000. So let's try and see if I can get the size of Texas National Guard. Okay, let's see how many they've got. I'm going to guess maybe 10, 15,000. There you go, 19,000 soldiers. Yep, the Texas Guard has 19,000 soldiers, 117 armories in 102 communities around the states. So, yep. Anyway, so that's every state has it. Now, the National Guard are under the governor's control, and that's why when the Democratic National Convention took place in Chicago in 1968, the Guard was called out because the governor has the authority to bring them out for civil disturbances. Now, the difference between the Guard and the active military is the Guard can be used for law enforcement because they're under the governor's control. They can respond to national disasters, they can defend the state, they can be activated for federal service and then go deploy in combat, and we do that. But they're the only force that can be used. So if you're in North Carolina and you're stationed at Fort Bragg in active duty, the federal government cannot use those troops to go out and do border patrol operations. They cannot use them to do coordinated search operations. They cannot use them to put down riots. That's illegal under previous rulings in this country and something called posse comitatus. So the National Guard can do those things. And that's why the National Guard is being used in Texas to patrol its border, because Texas has that authority. So that's it. So it's not a Texas Army as such. They wear Army uniforms. They have the same rank. When they're in uniform, they're no different than Army personnel. And there's an Air Guard, too, and they're no different than the Air Force when they're in Guard. In fact, there's an Air Guard unit at Harrisburg Airport with C-130s. They have C-130s sitting over there, or EC-130s, one of the two. I'm not sure which they are. But they have military aircraft, and they fly over my house when they're doing training periodically. Those folks work for the governor first. Now, the president can order those troops to active duty, and then they're no longer the governor's control, and the federal government has control of them. Yep. So we have the active component, 1.4 million military members serving in active duty around the world. We have the reserves, which is, I think, about 355,000. That's a federal reserve force of the same thing, but they're just part-time. And then we have the National Guard, which has about 450,000 members, I think, around the country. So, yeah, that's what we call the total force. Yep. Tony says they're dancing around each other. Yeah, they are, because the last thing anybody wants right now is a conflict or a shooting or a pushing or shoving match or, something like that between federal and state authorities. The Biden regime's conscious effort to undermine the rule of law, violate Title 42, which is now rescinded, so it doesn't matter, and violate immigration law while claiming that our immigration system is broken. It's broken because you're violating the law and should be in prison. That's why. But their effort to do that is causing chaos that is affecting Texans and destroying this country. And so Texas is trying to step up and protect American citizens. Now, the other question that's more interesting is that the authority of other states to send their guards to Texas, I believe they have that authority under the law. I'm not going to profess to be a subject matter expert in this, but I do know that in the past when we've had forest fires, some states will send their guardsmen out to Oregon or California to help that National Guard fight forest fires, that sort of thing. So I imagine they have the authority. Anyway, so that's, I think, something people need to be aware of. Up on the hour, and ESCOM load sheds to steel reserve. Okay. So Bernard, you found that interesting. Okay, well, there you go. Look, let me give you an example here. So I'll tell you a little story. I was in Botswana, and they had created a state partnership program with North Carolina and the state and the government of Botswana. So the National Guard was using its resources to send guardsmen through Africa Command or through European Command or any of the commands to countries abroad to build ties. Now, the reason why they use National Guard is the National Guard has part-time soldiers. They do training one weekend a month and usually 2 weeks in the summertime. That can be adjusted, but that's what they normally do. Aside from going to school. When they have to go to a school for professional development, they go to that. Oftentimes that's by correspondence unless they have to go in resident. But anyway, so this relationship between the North Carolina National Guard and Botswana required someone to focus on that program. So Botswana sent through Africa Command a major to Botswana who worked for me, and he was in the Carolina Guard. So not an active duty soldier. He was a major, and I was a lieutenant colonel at the time. So when it was time for his evaluation, and he's a good guy, but we didn't particularly get along, but that doesn't mean he doesn't get what's deserved, and I thought he had the potential to do well, and he earned it. So when it came time for his evaluation, I recommended the highest level he could get, above center mass, it's called. And that's what you need to get on a consistent basis to get promoted. That was downgraded and sent back to me before I gave him his report, and they put it center mass. And I contacted the Africa Command. I said, I'm confused. Was the write-up not strong enough? His accomplishments not sufficient for the general to have rated him? Now, the general can only rate less than half the people above center mass. It's a system to make sure that there's merit in here. So you can't give everybody above center mass. It's inflated. So only a percentage. And normally they reserve that for the top 1/3 or less. 20, 25, 30% get that above center mass. And if you want to get promoted, you got to get those again. So for instance, when you go for colonel, when you go to get looked at for full colonel, they're going to look at their last 10 evaluations. In my case, I had a very unique record, not alone. There were other people, but a small number. But in the past 10 evaluations, 9 of them had been above center mass, and that's with 7 or 8 different evaluators, which is pretty incredible. All of them were general officers, and I got 9 out of 10. That's why I made colonel. Otherwise, I wouldn't make colonel because there was no positions, but just because the excellence was there, that's how I was able to make it, or at least the excellence that people recognized. Now, I wanted him to get above center mass, and they said no. And I said, why? Well, he's in the Guard. I said, so? Well, we have to hold our above center masses for the active duty officers. And I said, that's nonsense. And they said, what do you mean that's nonsense? Now, I wasn't talking to the general. I was talking to his staff. I said, that's nonsense. I mean, our job is when people work for us to determine who the best leaders will be at the next rank. That's our job. We have to mentor and coach and ensure that the best talent rise to the top, whether they're in the reserve, the Guard, or active duty. I mean, when we deploy in combat, we don't make the distinction, hey, hold on a second, Major, are you National Guard or are you active? Oh, you're National Guard. No, they're soldiers. And if we want the best ones to become the lieutenant colonels and the colonels, then we have to reward them. If we screw them by giving them an average evaluation so that we can take care of someone we like who's an active duty officer who didn't necessarily earn it, then that's morally wrong. And it's bankrupt and it undermines the system of meritocracy. So I demanded to speak to the general. And I made my argument, not in the fashion I just did, but in a polite fashion, and said, hey, sir, this guy is a rock star. He's really good. I said, look, I don't like the guy. I honestly, I don't like him. We don't get along. But you know what? He's a talented officer, and he should make lieutenant colonel. And your staff told me that they recommended a center mass because he's in the Guard. I said, that's not right, sir. I said, this guy deserves an above center mass. The general looked at it again and agreed with me, said, "You're right." And he got above center mass. He became a lieutenant colonel later on. So congratulations to him. But I mean, that's you have to do the right, moral, and just thing. You don't pick favorites. And you're not going to give the contract to my sister because she needs money or she's tied to me by blood. That's asinine. We give the contract to the company that can provide the best service at the lowest price in the best delivery time so I get what I'm looking for. That's what you do. That's what you do. You don't do things otherwise. USA has FEMA task forces which help in rescue capacity national. Yeah, but the Federal Emergency Management Agency doesn't have a lot of resources as far as people. They rely on lots of NGOs, state resources like the National Guard. They have money and they have the ability to reach out and galvanize federal support, but it's not like they have an army of people sitting around, Paulie. That's a misnomer. And I think Hurricane Katrina proved that. In the middle of the night, intervals between load shedding, it's only 4 hours. That indicates ESCOM has problems. They are not communicating. Well, the reason there's no load shedding in the middle of the night is there's not much demand on the grid. I mean, you got to be honest here. I mean, other than industrial use, most of the grid is not being taxed during the night. People are sleeping. They're not up working, not using electricity. They're using minimal electricity. So the grid has a lot less stress on it at night, unless I misunderstood your point. Okay. Are you expected to join the reserves when retiring? No. When you retire from active service, Hakan, you are placed on what's called the retired list. So there's a list that the U.S. government military maintains of officers and NCOs and warrant officers who are still part of the military. I'm still in the military. I'm just not active. So that's why I'm allowed to use my title. I've earned it. It's the highest title I've earned. But I have to put retired on there. So there's a distinction, RET, so that people know that I'm not a serving active officer. But I'm on the retired list. And the reason you're on the list is you can be subject to recall on active duty. In fact, the Army is recalling some people right now, colonels. And I could go back in active duty if I was interested in the Army. Right now, I could go back. Just to get a physical. I'll pass that physical and I'll be back in uniform, shave the beard off, and then put the uniform back on and go back to work. I could do that right now. That's why you're on a retired list. You're not in the reserves. A lot of people, so for instance, when you come in the military, when I came in, there used to be a 6-year commitment. You, regardless of your status, with your enlist, you have a 6-year commitment. If you are an officer, you have a 6-year commitment. But it doesn't have to be served in active duty. So I knew a lot of people who went to college. They had a scholarship. They had to serve 4 years in active duty. They left and they served their last year. But by that time, it had been increased to 8 years. So they did 4 years in active duty, and then they did 4 years in reserve. Now, they didn't necessarily have to be active reserve. What I mean by that is where they actually go do drilling all the weekend. They could have just been on a list of people who could be called up in the individual ready reserve. That's a whole other thing. So we have active duty, 1.4 million. We have the reserves with 350,000, 355,000. We have the National Guard with 460,000. And then we have the individual ready reserve. The individual ready reserve are former military members who are still on the list, who are still of age, who can be called upon individually. You could be working for J.P. Morgan in Manhattan and get a call and a letter going, "Hey, Sergeant Wyatt, guess what? We need troops for Pakistan. You're being activated. Report to whatever base on this date." That's how it's done. Yep. Pretty crazy, huh? But think about it. We invest millions of dollars in training personnel. And when we need people, that's why they're there. Now, when that 8-year commitment is over, you're done and dusted. You're no longer in it. So if you did 4 years or 3 years active duty, then you're in the reserves for 4 or 5 years as an individual ready reserve. When that time is up, you're done. But we actually promote people in the individual ready reserve, people who never even drill, people who don't even do any service, because you have to have captains and majors and lieutenant colonels and generals. And when those people who are generals are too old to serve anymore in individual ready reserve, their name is struck from the list. They're listed retired. They don't get a retirement check. They're just off there. And then someone gets promoted. Without even serving. It's really cool for them. I've known people in the individual ready reserve who advanced in rank yet only came on active duty occasionally. Pretty wild. ESCOM's biggest problem is scheduling power engineers to work around the clock. That's true. You taught them to learn how to think for the situation, not what to think. No, agree, but they call on registered agencies and deploy task force from a state. Yeah, exactly, Paulie. That's exactly right. Joe Negrini. Yeah, I was about to say Paul will be gone. Huh? What you talking about there, Joe? Hey, Drian. How's Liaison? How's the little one? How you guys doing there? Good to see you, Drian. Tony Nage. Oh, somebody just deleted their message. That was Hakan. Why are you taking your message down there, Hakan? Anyway, folks, yeah, this is an unusual broadcast time. Look for that to be more frequent for the next week or so. I've got some other activities taking place, and I can't be around all the time. So, anyway, the beard. Huh? The beard will be gone? No, the beard is shortened, and it might get shortened again here very soon. But no, the beard isn't gone. It's still there. Anyway, yeah, I did have to admit something. I did do a questionnaire last night for the government, and they ask your hair color. Well, every time I've done it since I was 18, it said brown. Last night I had to put gray or partly gray on there. Little one's growing like a weed. Well, that's good, Dreon. That's what they tend to do. It's awesome to hear. Off with the beard, says Paulie. Off with Paulie's head. If your head's gone, you won't be the brains behind the operation anymore, Paulie. Anyway, yeah. So, folks, I hate to wrap things up, but I do need to wrap things up. What was Tony thinking about with the beard? Back in service, it will have to go. Oh, got you, Joe. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, no. Yeah, I can't have a beard in active duty. No, that's what I said. If I can have a mustache, but it can't touch the lip and it can't go past the edge, so it gets a really little Hitler-like sort of thing. So it doesn't look so great, especially if you don't have a big face, a big head. So I've had a mustache in the past, but rarely in active duty. So if I go back in active duty, all this comes off. My hair is already within standard, although this needs to be cut a little clearer around the edges right here. But it's got to be above the ear. But my hair is already military-style haircut for the top, so I'm good there. I just have to cut the beard off. It's all gone. I'm older than you, and you have more gray hair. Well, okay, Tony, but I have lots of hair. I have a full head of hair, and there is plenty of dark in there. It's just, well, this is because I've been worried. I've been protecting the world, defending freedom, and living a difficult life. Yeah, got you, Joe. I got you. Yeah, we'll have to go if I'm back in the military. That's true, but I'm not going back in the military right now. That's not the plan. Other things are in the hopper right now that I'm working on. Hester says, thanks for the stream. You're welcome. Gray is a sign of wisdom, says Tony. Well, it can be. I always liked the gray on the temples. I thought that was pretty cool. But imagine if I went and dyed my hair, what people would say. That'd be pretty funny. Dreon says, happy to report past my ethical hacker. Oh, congratulations on that, Dreon. That's awesome. That's awesome. All right, folks, going to wrap it up here. 56 likes, no super chat revenue, no new members. It was an unusual broadcast time, but thank you for being here. I need to go get a shower and then get ready to hit the road, run around, take care of some business. All right? You guys take care. Thank you for your time. God bless, and have a lovely day. If anything breaks, we'll be out. The State of the Nation address is on the 8th. I plan to broadcast that, and we'll see how it goes. All right? You guys take care. Cheers.